But who can heal? Who can heal time? I know you made your mistakes. It's a natural act of imperfect act. And in fact, is it really, really such a crime? In events such as these, when our answers proceeded to riddle, 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 riddle in a rhyme. It's a riddle in a rhyme. All through the obstacles around, it's truly only freedom that surrounds. With every breath, a living voice. With every rest, yes, there is a choice. And to see what you want to see, for it to be there must surely be mountains to climb, cliffs to scale, bridges to build, and we will persevere. And we will persevere. And we will persevere. Of imperfect act, and in fact, is it really, really such a crime? In events such as these, when our answers proceed to riddle, 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 riddle in a rhyme. It's a riddle in a rhyme. It's a riddle in a, it's a riddle in a. It's a riddle in a, 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 it's a riddle in a rhyme.
Hey guys, this is Dave Darin. It is great to see you guys. Let me tune my loud, obnoxious voice down a little bit. It is great to see Terry, John, Curtis, and Brig. Let's see who else is here. Let's see, Asuka. So let me say hello to all you guys and thanks for joining the show. Tonight we're going to talk about ghosts and UFOs. It's going to be fun. We got a guest calling in who's already called in, so he's waiting to be introduced to you guys. We're going to talk to Jesse in a couple minutes. But let me tell you guys something. Who else dresses like this? for a show like this. Are you digging the shirt? I got like extraterrestrials, UFOs, spacecraft on my shirt. You see these vehicles. I'll tell you, if there's ever an alien spacecraft, I've been looking for a DeLorean to make a purchase on a DeLorean recently. If an alien lands in a spacecraft, I think he's going to think that I'm an invader that invaded Earth before him, because he's going to see me driving around in a DeLorean dressed like this with all the rings, and he'll probably think, you know what? Not only will he think that this planet was invaded already, he's going to just get scared by seeing a guy like me drive up to a spaceship. But the other thing I hope that if we ever get invaded by spacecraft, I hope they're coming in cool vehicles. Like, you see the Enterprise from Star Trek with you got the saucer section in the front, then you got these two bananas sticking out the back. I want to see a UFO like in Lost in Space. I thought that was a really cool vehicle. The Jupiter 2, not the remake, the original was cool. And then we had, what was the other one? The Day the Earth Stood Still. Those were cool spacecraft. I hope if we get aliens that land here, I hope they got really, really cool spacecraft, and I hope they have attractive women. Because I'd like to see some hot-looking alien chicks land on this planet Earth. So with that note, let's introduce Jesse to the show, who had no idea what he was going to deal with. Jesse, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing really good. So great to have you on. It's Jesse Giovanni, a good Italian name, Jesse. You an Italian guy?
Yeah. No, that's actually just my middle name.
Oh, okay.
I go by that because I just kind of got tired of people trying to pronounce my last name so much. And so, yeah, that's a lot easier.
Well, it's also good because, like, if anyone comes up to you and you say, hey, I'm Giovanni, be careful what you're talking about. Right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll put a head out on somebody.
You ever watch Rick and Morty? You ever watch that show, Rick and Morty?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah, with Cousin Nicky, and he says, hey, I'm walking here. So all you have to do is walk up to someone and say, hey, I'm Jesse Giovanni. Hey, I'm walking here. And then everyone's going to part the ways and let Jesse through, right?
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, they're going to get it. They'll be sleeping with the fishes.
That's right. Let me say hello to a couple more people. Richard joined. Bernadette joined. Let me say hello to people that joined in just now. So, Jesse, we want to talk about two things with you. But let me say this before I get you on here to talk about the things we're going to talk about. I kind of met you because you were on, I think it was the Art Bell Experience. Were you on that group? Where did I meet you? What group did I meet you in?
I believe it was the Art Bell Legacy page, where he just has a bunch of fans in there posting about Art's legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we met. And I actually had posted on there about finding other radio shows similar to Art's, or even, just talking or listening to ghost stories to listen on my own. And I think you caught wind of that, and that's initially how it happened.
Yep. Now, by the way, I saw that post, and did any other host reach out to you? Any other host?
No, unfortunately. I haven't found anybody yet, so you're the only one. Yeah.
Yeah, except for me. So you know what? I usually don't do this because I'm not a self-centered guy, but I am going to clap for myself. I contacted you, right? I contacted you while no one else did. There we go. So,
yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about the couple things you brought up is the ghost stories. But then you also put something else up there that I found out kind of afterwards, but not a long time after. You actually had an encounter with a UFO. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I've actually had several encounters with them. They seem to follow people, and I don't know for what reason or how they do it or why. Really, it's just they tend to follow people, and I've been experiencing that my entire life. I'm 30 now, and I think my first ever UFO experience was when I was about 5 years old. I remember.
Now, do you have any idea as to why they follow you? They follow you from 5 years old till 30. Any idea why? What do you do unique? What's unique about you that you think? Or maybe you know why they're following you. What's the scoop on that?
I actually have no idea why. I know that there's nothing special about me in particular. I just know that it has been a reoccurring thing. Again, ever since I was about 5 years old. But they seem to follow, multiple people, not just including myself or other members of my family that I found out that they've, followed and I guess observed also. That would be my only reasoning towards it. I mean, if we as humans, we see an anthill, what do we do? Kind of the same concept there from what I take on it. We just observe and, try to see and understand what exactly they do.
Right. Okay. So you've been followed by UFOs. What was the close proximity of them to you? And did they make any attempt to communicate with you, or are they just doing flybys? Are they doing close encounter flybys? Or what? Give me the proximity and any attempt to communicate.
That's a really interesting question in itself.
Well, that's because I'm a good interviewer. So let's clear that up right now. But go ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Well, there's multiple reasons why that's interesting. Alongside you being an awesome host, I think that I haven't particularly have seen extraterrestrial with my own eyes or anything like that.
Okay.
I know that my family has, and I was really, really young when they have. We have a farm out here in Colorado, and it has miles and miles of acres of land on it, and alongside that are some sand dunes. Well, when I was really young, I think this was actually even previous to my first remembering the encounter that I had when I was 5. My aunts can confirm this, and a bunch of people alongside my family, but they've seen extraterrestrial craft land on sand dunes. Wow. It was the shape of a ball, and they say that it had electricity coming out of it, and they did see the extraterrestrial walk out and do whatever they did. My grandfather actually was in special. I don't know exactly what he did. He died back in 1992, and all I know that he was in some serious stuff with the military that included Project Bluebook, a number of projects actually. He did tell me before he died that Hangar 18 was real, and that they do know what the missing link is, which is, the link that pretty much tells us where we come from as humans and things like that. But he will not say where. He would never tell me where or anything like that. None of my family knows. That's just all we know from him saying. So as far as seeing extraterrestrial myself, I've never seen them. I've came close.
How close did you come? What are we talking about there in closeness? You mean in close proximity of seeing a vehicle, or a close proximity of seeing the door open to the craft and you almost saw the being coming out? So tell me about that.
Well, that leads me into my next point here. The craft that I have seen follow me and my family and my girlfriend and I, they're always, it seems to be relatively far, but you can always make out windows. You can always make out some kind of shadow or silhouette moving alongside in the windows. So that's more of what I mean. I never really saw them, but I know for a fact that they're there just because of the vehicle that I have seen and the craft that I've seen.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because I've seen a lot of people, they'll send me some pictures, they'll send me videos, and you'll see like a light source, and you'll see something that almost looks like a light that is moving, but you can do that with a camera, you can do that with a cell phone. But you've actually seen in the craft windows and silhouettes of beings within the vehicle. So it is actually a pretty close encounter.
I would say that's pretty close.
Yeah.
There's been a few experiences And I don't necessarily, how can I say this without making it sound bad? I don't necessarily believe in this kind of stuff. I mean, my whole life it's just been science fiction and things like that. But to see them it changes your whole concept on everything, really. And I can totally see why our government and the military has kept it secret for quite some time. Not only will it throw religion out of the window completely, but mass hysteria would be involved. I'm sure there would be riots and all kinds of things. Without religion, people would go chaotic, I think.
Now, and that's interesting because actually I had someone come on and I said, why would humanity be scared? Because if the aliens have been here, because there's that program, Ancient Aliens, from a long, long time ago, they predicted aliens were here many years ago. And if they've been here for that long a time period, and especially since we know about Roswell and all that since the 50s, and now it's 2019, and there's been no city of Philadelphia or New York City that's been bombarded, eliminated, destroyed. Every being that lives in that square mileage is destroyed. They're gone, vaporized. So there's been no direct hostility with aliens towards humans. But you say that it would destroy a couple things. One, you mentioned religion. And so you're saying that, do you think religion keeps people in check? And once religion is thrown out, that check and balance of humanity is going to be thrown off just because of religion?
I do in a sense, yes, because with religion and people's beliefs, I think they believe in what's right and what's wrong. They know what's right and what's wrong. They believe in a higher power. So they know what's good and what's evil, God and the devil, things like that, or whatever your religion may be. However, without that, I guess, status, that leads into more humanly free will to do whatever you wish. I mean, if there's no religion and you don't believe in anything, there are atheists out there, which isn't to say, they're not going making a riot or anything like that, but I can see mass hysteria happening. I can see, let's say that aliens have created humans, and let's say that throws Jesus and all religion out the window. What is going to happen to the world without that religion or religious belief?
Okay.
And that's a very, very interesting concept to think about, I think.
Okay. And actually, I haven't really thought about it a whole lot. You bring it up, it's an interesting point. And by the way, I'm not a very religious person either. I think that there's something that comes on after I pass away. My spirit lives on, and maybe my radio program will live on too, because my wife's got copies of all this stuff. So when I'm gone, I think she's going to try to make money out of my name, and God help her, right? Let her try to do that. But that's an interesting philosophy about religion. So let me get on some other stuff here. You said that at the age of 5 is when you saw your first encounter of a craft from a long distance. What was that like? Was it scary? You were a kid. You thinking, well, I was probably dreaming because I'm a little 5-year-old kid here. Did you tell anyone about it? And then did the people you tell you, oh, you're a little kid, you were dreaming, it was a nightmare? Or because your family's been involved, did they say to you, look, Jess, there's some stuff going on. I'll tell you a little bit about it, but you're a little young, but I'll give you a little flavor. But then you'll start to learn more and more as you get older. What was that all about? The first time and how your first time was treated?
From my memory, on my first encounter with a spacecraft or extraterrestrial craft, whatever you want to call it, I was actually jogging. It was nighttime in Denver, and I was with my father at the time, so he used to work out a lot and try to stay fit. He used to ride motorcycles as just a sport to do motocross. He was into things like that, so to keep up with his shape and physical fitness, he would go running at night when it was colder, so he'd sweat more and things like that. As we were running, I used to ride my bike with him because I was super small and there's no way that I can keep up with like an adult. So I do remember riding my bike over some train tracks. And at that time, I could see street lights on, but they were kind of flickering. And it was a little bit weird because I never, at that point in time, saw a street light flicker. So I thought that was neat. I do remember my dad stopping. He stopped from running, and he was just looking up. And from my memory, he goes, "Look, what is that?" And, you know, I had no idea what it was. I was a kid. But I think he was just more excited than anything. But we look up, and it wasn't far away. This one was not far away. I would say it was maybe a few 100 feet above power lines and light posts. From my memory, though, I noticed a big, it had to be at least a football-sized craft, but I do remember it was a V shape, or it wasn't a full triangle. There was no bottom piece on it, but it was a V shape, and it made absolutely no noise, but it was directly over us as we were running, and it made absolutely no noise. And I was just, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, that's cool. But I had no idea. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what UFOs were. I had no idea what aliens were, or, you know, at that point in time, I was just being introduced to this stuff. And I remember my dad being just completely in awe because of it. And I remember we went home in a mass excitement. Actually, my dad was super, super excited. And I don't know why. You know, it's not like he can catch anything and show it to the family, or, you know, I just remember he bursted in and he was telling everybody, the whole family, about what we had just saw. And, you know, and at that time there weren't really any good cameras or good video equipment, so there's no hard evidence of that. But, you know, believe it or not, that I think that's something that I will always remember. I'll take that to my grave.
Yeah. Now, was your father's first time seeing something as well, or you're not quite sure?
No, that was not his first time.
Not his first time. Right.
So after that, he kind of introduced me to his knowledge on everything. You know, he followed his entire life, ever since he began radio. And you know, my dad's father, my grandpa, being in the military, you know, my dad kind of took interest to a lot of projects that my grandfather was interested in. So he had a firm grasp of UFOs and what they were at the time. I don't think he saw very many, which is probably why he was excited about seeing that one. It's just kind of a confirmation for him, saying that, hey, these things are real. They're right here. So that's kind of how it happened to me, and he kind of introduced me to everything. You know, Bob Lazar was a huge one at that time, just because he had just come out and said all of his findings and you know, reverse engineering and things like that. And after that, I would say the next year is when we really, really heavily got into it.
Wow. So,
and,
well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So your father goes in to the rest of your family when you and him have seen a UFO, of which you've seen them before. He comes in excited to talk to the rest of the family. What's their response? Because has the rest of the family also been exposed to what your father was seeing? Or was it mostly your father was seeing them, you happened to see one the first time, but the rest of your family had never been exposed to it? What's the family relationship with all this?
Well, the family's relationship is pretty much the same as my dad. We're a pretty tight-knit family, and like I had mentioned, that farm that we all grew up on and everything, all of my family has been there, and they've seen multiple things. So my family has a firm belief and grasp on it too. I would say that it's 50-50 because there are some skeptics in my family that just don't believe anything. Even if it's right in front of them, they have to, you know, take it apart and just to kind of mess with it to see if it's actually real or it is what it is.
Right.
So you can show videos to some people in my family, and you can throw the book at them, and they still won't believe it. So it's just a mix of things like that. Some people, when he did burst in, I remember my aunt specifically, because she's a really, really strong believer. She went outside and tried to look for it. And she was trying to search the skies, trying to find it, and nothing. It was gone.
Okay, let me get to some questions here. So Mary asked this question, and she says, Dave, can you ask him if he thinks some of the craft could be drones that are unmanned, unalien? I guess she thinks that could you have been mistaken? I guess what she's saying is, although there were no drones back when you were 5 years old, because that was 20-some years ago. So at that time, there were no drones, so it wouldn't have been unalien craft that were drones, because there were none. But do you think that they could be drones controlled by the aliens? Do you think aliens have drones where they got their spacecraft here, and they've got unmanned things that they're flying around in space because they can't get to everywhere in their explorers, so they have unmanned craft flying around as well?
I think that could be a very high possibility, especially considering, the subject of observing. I mean, who wants to observe an unknown planet? Nobody or your race doesn't know about, with the possibilities of entities getting injured or hurt or diseased or anything like that. So I think if they're so advanced and they have that technology that is greater than ours, yes, it is a highly possibility that they do have drones that they're sending out to scan potential material that they need, or why ever they come here. We as people don't go out and try to. I mean, some people might, but I can't speak for everybody. I know me personally, I wouldn't just go out to someplace I don't know, and try to find out what I can.
Yeah, I got you there. Especially some of the places that don't like us going there. I don't talk politics on this show. But so now, so the first time was 5 years old. When was the next time? Was it frequently?
The next time I remember actually seeing another craft, it was a few years later.
Okay,
and I remember I was about 10 or 11 at that time. So I have a very, very good memory of this. We had ordered pizza, and I remember, the pizza guy knocks on the door, and he's talking to, I believe it was my brother at the time that answered it. At the door, where we lived, it was really, really open skies. There were no trees. You can pretty much see everything. So at the time, there's this pizza delivery guy at the door, and right above our house is I don't know the shape of what it was, but it was multicolored. I mean, it was like hot pink. It was green, blue, yellow, red, silver. You name it, it showed it. And it was just kind of morphing into different things. I guess that's why I find it so hard to get the shape of it. But from my memory, the pizza guy got really, really freaked out.
Wow.
And he didn't even charge us for the pizza or anything. He left. So
wow.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, he got out of there. He wasn't expecting enough. He wasn't expecting enough tip to cover that experience, right?
I mean, apparently not. We were just holding, cash in hand and expecting to pay this guy. We look up and then we look over again, and he's in his car, gone down the road. So.
Yeah, sounds like an episode of the Munsters with those guys. But
yeah.
What's the flight path of these vehicles? I mean, you see it, you saw it. The pizza guy's there, he splits, and you see the vehicle there. Do you sit there? Do you stand there, watch it, and then is it? Because I would imagine you're going to stay there and watch it until it goes away. I would imagine if I saw something really, really suspicious in the sky, I'd be one of two things. I'd be the pizza guy running away, or I'd be looking at it and to see where it goes up, where it ends up, if it moves, if it goes away quickly, if it goes away in a straight line. What takes place after you see it?
Well, that's kind of tough for me to say, honestly, because, now I think about those things. Whenever I see something, now I do think about that. I stop and I think about, hey, what is that thing? Where is it going? What is it doing? How is it moving? Before, I did not think about that. You kind of don't. I don't know how to explain it, but when you first see these things, you really don't know what to think about it. It's kind of hard to process. I did not. I didn't wait to see it fly off or do whatever. I kind of just watched it for, I don't know, a few minutes, a few seconds to a few minutes, and then I went inside because ultimately there's nothing that we can do. You see a unidentified flying craft flying in restricted airspace. What can you as a person do about that?
Yeah.
You can just sit there and watch it, but ultimately your life has to go on too. I can't just sit there hours and hours waiting for something to leave.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as extraordinary as it is and as impossible as it is to think about, I never watched a ship go, do evasive maneuvers or fly off into or disappear or anything like that. For the most part, my sightings have been them either flying extremely slow, to where it's not one of our man-made craft. That's how slow it is, with no sound, nothing. Or it's just sitting there. Those are my experiences, and I know everybody has their own. And I have seen things like fly off in videos and shoot up in the sky, but personally, I've never seen that.
Right. How about the craft that landed? Now, did you say that you did not see the craft land? It was other family members. Is that right?
Right. I was a baby at the time. I do know that somebody was holding me. I believe it was my aunt. Her name is Linda. She has a very, very strong memory about this too. If I come back on, I'll have to get her on the line to confirm this story. She tells it a lot better than I do, because she was actually there, a witness. Alongside that, my cousin Tom, he actually saw one of the entities get out of the vehicle, and I remember him saying that he asked my grandpa what it was, and my grandfather just said, "Don't pay them any kind of mind. Let's just go this way. Leave them alone." And that was that.
Wow.
That was, yeah.
But do you think that they were ever warned? Because you said that your father, I think you said it was, didn't really go into telling you a whole lot about everything in detail. Was it your father or someone else you said didn't go into detail about a lot of stuff?
It was my dad, yeah, because after we saw that first initial, or it was my first time after I saw that first initial craft, I was super curious as to what it was, Yeah. I've never seen an airplane like that. As far as I know, there were only airplanes and helicopters, when I was that age.
Right. But kids, kids at 5 years old, they're always you always see the TV shows, and the kids always saying, why? What? What's that? What's that? The kids are going to ask that all the time. So your father never really did come clean and tell you, look, even from Project Bluebook, here's what we got going on. So you never really got that clarity from him or your uncle or your aunt or anything like that as to like what the alien looked like, the being looked like that someone saw. Did you get any clarification beyond what you've seen personally? Like any interesting facts, spicy bits?
As I got older, yes, there was a lot more explained to me. I think when I was younger, they just didn't disclose all of the information that they knew just because of my age. They didn't want to scare me or things like that because this thing can be terrifying to some people.
Right.
Especially the possibilities of like abduction, things like that. And I understand that concept where they didn't want to frighten me. But later, as I did get older, I believe it was around 15 to 17, my aunt was actually the one, her name is Rosemary. She's actually the one to tell me, hey, these are how they look. This is what they are. This is what's out right now. My dad was more along the lines of like, yeah, these are, ETs, like little aliens. And here's a cartoon video so you can see of like Kazoo, from the Flintstones or something. So I didn't really get the full concept from him.
Okay, but you did get a description of what your aunt said they look like. So what did she say they look like? What's the description?
So from what her experiences are, and from my understanding, this is her description based on her experiences.
Okay.
So she was present on that sand dune when the apparent ball ship had landed. And she said that she saw some of the extraterrestrial get out of the vehicle, and they had really big heads. They were grayish, light gray, kind of whitish color. Not really pasty at all, but they had really long arms, really long legs. They weren't too tall, from what I understand. Extremely big eyes. And that's it. There was no more features given, like how many fingers or anything like that. It never was discussed.
Well, maybe not close enough. But now, the vehicles that you've seen, now you've seen them from further away, but not that far away because you've actually seen windows and images within the vehicle itself. So you're close enough to make that out. Have they been saucer-shaped or the ball shape that your aunt saw that landed? Or is your description seem to be different than what your aunt's described to you as the roundish figure? Very different descriptions of it. And plus, you've seen a vehicle shaped sort of like a V. So these are like different shapes of vehicles that you're talking about, right?
Right. Yeah. So I've seen, even up till now, I've seen multiple of them. And it seems to be more and more and more as I get older. It's kind of weird.
Wow.
But with that, yeah, all of my encounters have been totally different from one another. Totally different. Let's see here. The picture that I had sent you earlier, that was a what I would call like a classic disc. Right. Stereotypical saucer. And there's honestly no way to put that. That picture is from a video that I just screenshotted, and the object was moving. It was moving from a cloud, but as you can see in the picture, that you can tell there's movement there.
Right.
And that would be the only time I would say that I ever caught movement or anything like that from a craft.
Right.
But yeah, they've all been different shapes, all been different sizes. I've seen some as big as a dime, which is really, really weird. And I don't even know if you would classify that as UFO or not. I had no idea what it was. I've seen some, like I said, the size of at least a football field, at least.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
Now
and a lot of in between.
Now, you're in Colorado, correct? Is that where you've seen all this stuff in Colorado, right? In the farm area that you said that's kind of open area, open availability to see space, right?
Correct, yeah. I recently moved to Denver, more the city in like last February, and there's a pretty good shot of the skyline. You can really see the Denver skyline from where my old apartment was. There's this little tree area where you can just sit and look at the skyline. Well, one night I was doing exactly that, and you just see this blue and red ball going back and forth over the city. So I have no idea. I mean, I see these things constantly. I have no idea what they are. I know a lot of them are not man-made, not from us anyway. So,
right.
what other possibility could there be?
Right. Now, when you're seeing these things, like, do you have, like, friends with you? Like, for instance, you had your girlfriend with you at that point. And for instance, you're in Colorado there, whether you're at the place where there's a farm and all that, where the next farm next to that place might be kind of far away. So the neighbors aren't seeing what you're seeing. But any people with you that are, like, collaborating with you and say, I saw it too. I saw it too. And 5 people saw it. 6 people saw it. So is there like a collaborative effort there to see these things and acknowledge that at least not one person saw it, but 5 people saw it, and then maybe 1 month later 3 people saw it? A lot of people seeing this stuff, I would assume, right?
Yeah. I have multiple people that have seen the same thing that I have, and have had similar experiences of their own that they've encountered as well. But for the most part, whenever I do see these, whatever they are in the sky, yeah, I do have people with me. Yeah. Which is really, really relieving for me.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, it's like, hey, I'm not crazy.
Right. Wow. So now, you were with your girlfriend at one point when you saw one, right? Which is the picture you sent me, which is a snapshot of the video, correct?
Correct, yes.
Now was that her first time seeing one? Was she totally freaked out and you calmed her down, or what happened there?
Well, my girlfriend and I have been together for about 7 years now, and from my knowledge, I don't know whether or not she has seen one in person or anything in person. It just never came up in our conversations. Like, yeah, we talk about UFOs and we watch alien stuff, and we're really interested in that stuff, but we don't really talk about the real sightings or anything like that. I think when we were together and we saw this thing, that may have been one of her first experiences. Just by her initial reaction on it, she seemed to be pretty scared, as well as I was, because of how this thing came. It's really weird to describe, and I'm going to try to paint this picture for you the best that I can. So there's a highway that's leading off of one of the northern areas over here, and to the left of the highway is this big Walmart supercenter, and you can park directly into the parking lot from the highway. So that's exactly what we did. We were in the parking lot, and as we're getting out of the car, when you open the door for your car, you can see everything. Now, this was in the middle of broad daylight. My girlfriend and I look up, and we just see this. It looked black, and it looked square at first. So it looked like kind of like a Lincoln block or like a Lego at first, and it was pitch black, and it was hiding behind the cloud. Like, it was really hiding behind the cloud, and you can tell. I have no idea how you can tell, but you can tell. And as we noticed it, it kind of seemed to notice us as well, and it slowly moved away from the cloud, and that's when we started to take the video. But that's the movement that I caught, and it peered out of the cloud, and it was a disc. And it looked completely different from how I had initially seen it. So I have no idea what that is.
Well, it's interesting. Your experience is interesting, because me growing up with girlfriends in cars, usually my girlfriend would say, Dave, pull your pants up. And I'd look over and say, what, cop coming? Policeman coming? And then you would have to say, no, it's an alien. Now, by the way, did your girlfriend then, did you tell your girlfriend, look, my family has seen a lot of UFOs, like my dad has, I have, and that would kind of scare your girlfriend away, because they would think that the UFOs are like visually seeing you a lot, so it might scare someone away. So, but you haven't probably told her that, right? Have you told her your family has a history of seeing this?
Actually, yeah, I've been completely honest with her. I told her everything, whether she wants to believe it or not. It is what it is, and I laid everything out as she was curious about it.
But at least she's seen it once. At least she's seen it once, so she's more open-minded to your discussion. If she never saw it before, and you went up to her and said, look, at the age of 5, I saw this, and my father saw this, My aunt saw one coming out. It had a long head. It's a great body with long arms. At least she's seen something on her own, which makes her more of a believer because she's seen it with her own eyes. Or is she still a skeptic to some degree?
No, I don't. That's my next point. I don't think she's ever been a skeptic. I think she's been more open-minded on this thing. She just didn't ever have an experience, and that's kind of all she needed, just for that clarification and for that confirmation. And I think that's definitely what she got when we saw what we saw.
Right. Now you have no contact with them to know if they're here peacefully or aggressively or taking things from our planet that they need and that's why they're here, or so you really don't know exactly why they're here, correct?
Correct. And I honestly, I feel very strongly about this. I don't think anyone knows why exactly they're here or why they visit or things like that. I have theories, just as everyone does.
Well, what's your theory? Let's go with your theory. What's your theory? What do you think? Why do you think they're here?
Well, I think that they kind of travel just for natural resources, natural minerals, things that they may need or use for their propulsion systems. Just like, Bob Lazar has spoke of in numerous times in his interviews as well. And also, there's been numerous people that have come out of the military and confirmed his story to be true. So there's a lot of aspects with his story that I find in kind of a similarity with my experiences. Just because I've seen those propulsion systems in action, just floating there and things like that. And like I said, I know for a fact that there's nothing that I've seen personally or anybody else that I know that was man-made that we have that does the same effect.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, that's why I come to the conclusions that I do. I mean, you have to rule out every possibility that you can. And it's just kind of, when you reach that point, what else is there?
Yeah. Now, I've asked this on other programs before, and some of the new people probably never heard me ask this question, so I might as well ask it. So one of the one that you saw in a V shape, you said you saw some kind of electricity coming from it, or some kind of a light source. Was it a lit up? Obviously, if it's electricity, it's up in space, and you saw something that looked electric. Obviously, there's some kind of lights or visual appearance to it. Correct?
Correct. It's really difficult to explain because it's not like you would see. Like you turning on a light switch or and a light bulb coming on. It wasn't like that. It was like oh boy, it's really, really hard to put into words here, but it was almost like an aura of some sort or like a force field around.
And you saw electric, obviously, some kind of light or visual appearance, correct?
But yeah, that's typically.
Well, I think that we got another caller, and the caller seems to have the program on in the background. So whoever the caller is, can you shut the audio off?
I did.
Okay, so let me let Jess finish up his topic, and then we'll introduce the caller. So go ahead, Jess. I'm sorry.
Okay, great.
I don't want to cut you off, so go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm totally sorry. I just lost where I was going with that, but it seemed to be kind of like a force field or some kind of electromagnetic field around this thing, whatever it was. So that's more of what I saw. It wasn't like a light. Okay. It's really difficult to explain. That's the best way I can put it, though.
Okay, so let's get the caller in here. Caller, what's your name? And introduce yourself to us first.
Terry Darin.
Oh, Terry. Okay, so this is Terry calling. So did you have a question for our guest this evening? This is Jesse. He'll answer your question.
Yeah, I do, Jesse. It seems the further we get into your story, the more details you talk about. Now, I just thought you said that you and your girlfriend had never spoken about UFOs, but then you said that you two were taking a film of a UFO. So I'm not quite sure if it's me or if, I don't understand.
Hey, Jess, you still there?
Sir? Pardon?
Oh, Jesse, you still there? I wonder if we had lost Jesse. I'm not sure. There's just you on now at the moment. Hopefully.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Hopefully.
Right.
Okay, I think.
I opened my big mouth, but wasn't he flip-flop?
Okay, Jess, I think you're back now, right?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened there. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I think the question was from Terry. She said that initially you said that you and your girlfriend had seen this craft together, and then I think the caller Terry says, but you and her never really discussed it much. But I think what you said is you don't discuss it on a frequent basis, but the two of you have seen it. Was that your question, Terry, or did I get it wrong?
No, I thought that you, Jesse, had said that that your girlfriend, as far as you know, you and she had never spoken about the crafts. I can't remember exactly what you said. I may be wrong. But then you said you and she filmed a craft together.
Yes. So we before the first occurrence with me and her, and seeing this thing, we never really discussed anything real like this. It's just been, sci-fi movies. It's been, aliens in films, things like that, Independence Day and things like that. That's what we normally have talked about. But upon seeing the actual craft in the sky, we were completely baffled. And after that, we just didn't know what to talk about. But yeah, we talked about it a little bit more after the first incident there. And just to clarify with each other, we actually saw what we saw.
Yes.
So that was a huge thing for her, as well as me, seeing it with another witness there, as well as somebody that's as close as my girlfriend. I don't think there can be any more of a credible witness than that, honestly.
Yeah. I can't imagine ever seeing a UFO. Although I believe in them 100%, I've never seen one. I'd love to. Your story is very interesting, though. You said that you've been seeing them since you were young?
Yes.
Yeah, since
Yes.
the age of 5. So what's the most frequent visit that you had?
One of the most frequent visits I've had has been more recently, just this past year, honestly, and that was where I was talking about seeing the thing going over the skyline back and forth constantly.
Okay,
after that incident, actually, we moved in a month to our new place. So we had just been there, barely brand new, what I like to call the honeymoon phase of a new place.
Yeah.
And after that incident, they just seemed to like that area and like that spot a lot. So I constantly see them in that area. It's around, for those of you living in Colorado, it's off of Highway 36 in Pecos. And I believe it's right near the 84th area there, 84th and I-25 area, near Highway 36 in Pecos as well. So it's right in that area. If you can look up at, in the nighttime or even in the daytime, I'm sure you'll see something.
Now you mentioned it this time. You said that you see things moving around. Do you see them moving in an unusual pattern, or do you see them moving in a flight pattern that's not too unusual, where it could be something earthly, although you're probably describing something that's definitely not earthly? But any strange motion with these things, like a speed that's not realistic from a planet-driven vehicle? Anything unusual in the motion?
Yeah, actually, that would be the same thing that I had mentioned, going back and forth over the city. That's the only thing that I've seen constantly moving like that. And, when you first see something going over a city, you don't think anything of it. It could be a plane, it could be whatever. But when it stops,
yeah,
at a dead standstill, and then it goes back in the same direction that it came, going at an even slower pace, that is something else. You know, and that is, yeah.
Have you ever tried the flashlight, you know, to flash a flashlight or a laser at it? Of course,
No.
you may not have a flashlight or a laser when it comes along, but that's what I'm doing. I look out my bedroom window. I have, my windows are about 10 feet high in my bedroom. So I have a flashlight right here. And I pray that a flying saucer will come. I see the space station. You know, I've seen it, but I've never seen a flying saucer. Huh. So, but I do have a flashlight and a laser ready, just in case.
So you
there's a few things I'd like to say about that. Number one, you are a lot braver than what I would ever be. So,
well, I'm in an enclosed room. I don't know how brave I'd be if I were out of doors. I'd be terrified. I'd run in the house.
So, you know, that's the second thing.
Chicken.
Right. So, same here, man. And that's the second thing that I was going to say is the reason why I haven't tried the flashlight or laser thing is because I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified of that. I don't want them to catch my attention.
To bring you up into the saucer.
Right. It's a completely different. It's a different story when I see them versus them seeing me. And it terrifies me. Abduction stories terrifies me. I can't do that. So you're a lot braver than what I am.
So Jess, I'm curious. Let me ask you this question, Jesse. In your family, do you think anyone has ever been abducted? Have they ever told you anything that was a little bit over and beyond what you've been told? Anything a little bit suspicious or anything like that? And for instance, you mentioned your father wasn't really telling you a whole lot of things. Do you think he was warned by aliens, even though he knows? But did the aliens come and tell him, "Look, don't tell us, and don't tell your friends or family or your child here any more than I'm giving you permission to tell because it's going to be bad"? Anything like that happen? Any crazy situations?
No, I can't say that it has, or any kind of like abduction stuff. There's been some weird
Didn't he say don't tell somebody? Didn't he tell you not to tell somebody when you were a little kid? Don't tell anybody about this?
No, because again, he put it more in a cartoon, you know, fictional setting for me. And that was my father. Yeah, you know, he showed me Flintstones, and he showed me the alien on Flintstones or whatever, and be like, hey, that's what's out there. But it wasn't like him actually showing me a gray alien and saying, okay, these are what the beings are. This is how they get here, and you know.
My throat.
Okay, well, let me...
I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to wait. So
I'm eating anyway. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me ask. So, Jesse, when you said these vehicles are flying is pretty much in one area, said they're really focused on one area. Your theory of collecting materials from planet Earth and that one, maybe there's a good collection of the material that they need in that one vicinity, and that's why they're lingering there. So I wonder have you ever seen any human craft going down there? And the reason I'm asking this is if there's a variety of spacecraft centrally located flying in one area suspiciously, if anyone found out that there were legitimate craft there, you would think that there would be humans going down to wherever it was in Jeeps and looking to see if there's anything being removed from planet Earth by maybe an alien craft. But have you seen any human vehicles in the area that you're talking about?
Yes.
You have?
I actually have. There's been only about 2 occurrences that I can think of where I did see something weird in the sky. And, you know, I continue on about my day, and 5 minutes later I look in the same spot. It's gone, but there's a helicopter circling the area. Or jets, you know. And you can definitely tell a military jet from, a commercial airliner for sure. So it's been sightings like that. I've never seen one of our man-made craft go down to a landing or scout a particular area that one has potentially have land or anything like that. I do know that my little sand dune story with the craft that apparently landed there. There was leftover residual things from the ship that were left imprinted in the sand.
Huh. Wow.
I do know that, but as far as, anything else goes, I can't confirm that because I was just too small. I didn't see anything. And honestly, I didn't even know what was going on at the time.
Wow. Well, fascinating. So that's a great set of UFO stuff we talked about. But I did want to get to, thanks for joining for so long, by the way, but tell us about originally, I think you wanted to talk about ghosts, right?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. First of all, I'm curious. You're seeing aliens, are you seeing ghosts in parallel to them, or like you're seeing an alien this week, next week you're thinking, okay, well, next week it's time for the ghost to come along. So what's going on? What's going on with this stuff?
Dave, I really wish they had an agenda like that, but it's just they come and go as they please, and I just take it as it is. I've had numerous ghost encounters, along with some not so friendly ghost encounters as well.
Okay. Now, have these been ghosts that you can associate with people that you knew that have passed away, or these strange ghosts that you have no idea what these spirits are all about? Any determination of one or the other?
Yeah, there's actually, I have seen relatives that have passed.
Okay.
This is really hard to explain because when you see like an apparition or things you don't know that you're seeing, there's no way of knowing, what it is or anything like that. But you can feel it. It's more of a feeling.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a spirit connecting to you based upon some spiritual energy, I guess. That doesn't have to be spoken or discussed. It's just an acknowledgement that you understand what they are. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so now
Like you're sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so go on with this. So are these aliens able to be visually, aliens? Are these spirits, these ghosts? How do you see them? Do you see them in a blurry focus? Do you see them in a clear focus? Do you see them in a not focus at all? It's just a white light. Give us the imagery.
I've never seen like a white light or anything like that. What I've seen has more been like full-bodied apparitions, things like that. And the relatives I was actually talking about was one was being my grandfather. I did see him in our old house right after he died, actually, and it was about 5 cousins and myself in the living room there, and it was about 5 in the morning, and we had stayed up all night just because we were kids and, we were playing games and doing whatever. And I remember the window had like a curtain on it, so it wasn't really like full daylight, but you can see it's kind of daylight, And through the living room, it goes directly into the dining area where you can see the entire room. But right in the corner of the dining area, you can see somebody was there. And again, it's really hard to tell, but you can just feel it.
Could your cousins feel them? I mean, see them?
Oh, I think we
Or
lost.
just you?
We lost Jesse again. Hopefully, I'll call back. But that was the question. He'll call back, I'm sure. But that was the question I was going to ask him as well. Is if his
Yeah,
cousin,
right. That's a good question, Dave.
Yeah, it's a
Because that's interesting.
Yeah.
If you see a full body apparitions, then he's very, very in tune with the spirits, Dave.
Yeah. Well, let's see if he calls back. If not, then we'll
I
continue.
have a good ghost story for you. But I have to give you a little back history about this particular building. I live in Winthrop, Massachusetts, and maybe 5 to 7 miles from us is another. It's a city. I live in a town. It's a city called Chelsea. And in the 20s, there was a severe fire. It burned down like 6 blocks. And Winthrop had a great big loss. Do you want to see if Jesse's there, Dave?
Oh, no, he's not. I'll tell you when he joins in. He hasn't.
Oh, okay. Well, what Winthrop did was, in 1925, they started, I don't know when. They completed the building in 1925, and it was called the Jewish Community Center because it was the Jewish part of Chelsea that burned. Now, downstairs in this building, they had 3 floors. Downstairs in this building was AC in a prison, no
Hello?
stalls or anything, just the showers they had. And my friend Linda told me she used to get so damn creeped out, walking, the coldness, goosebumps all over every time she walked by that shower. And one night, I have a lot of stories about this building, but one night, Linda and I was the director, so I had to stay late. And one night I was walking down the hall, and it was a long damn hall, and the classrooms were off to the left and right. Well, I just felt like I was being followed. So I turned around, and there was a black shadow, but the man had a hat on. He looked like, the only thing I could describe him as looking like is Dick Tracy. He looked just like Dick Tracy. He had the Dick Tracy hat on. And on Art, I've heard a lot of stories about shadow people wearing hats. So that really freaked me out. Then Is he, Jesse is back?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on there with the connection, but yeah, I'm definitely
Maybe
back.
the ghosts and spirits are playing around with your phone.
Maybe.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But
That's
I've heard a lot of Art's episodes where they talk about the same thing. A dark figure with a Dick Tracy hat on.
Yes, with a hat on. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And it's stuck with me. I can picture it right now. Not even closing my eyes, I can see it. That's how much it frightened me.
That is so weird. Wow.
So Jesse, I'm curious about this. So now you would be too scared to flash like a laser or a flashlight at the alien to draw their attention. Yet the ghosts are a closer encounter because they're in the same room. So hasn't the ghost scared the daylights out of you because the ghost is in a closer proximity?
Well, you just kind of don't pay these things any mind.
Huh.
That's the best way I can put it. And just because of my knowledge, my research on it, and some experiences that I've had, there's one experience that I'm just not willing to talk about. It scares the living what out of me, and I think even talking about that thing will conjure something up, and I don't want to go there, but I definitely don't pay them any mind, and I know that they feed off of energy. I know that they use energy. I've seen little orbs and little entities flying into like tape recorders and things like that at the same time that they're picking up EVPs.
Yeah.
So there's I know that they're there. I mean, there can be one standing right next to me, and you can't pay it any mind because they say weak minds, that's they're more susceptible to like possession or things like that, and it's just it's really alarming for me. So I just try to not pay it any mind.
Wow. So now when they're there in proximity to you and you acknowledge them by knowing that they're there, do they attempt to communicate with you anyway? You know that they're there. You can distinguish them between someone you don't know and someone that you have known in the past. Have they attempted to communicate with you in any way? Are you resistant to it, where that's why they haven't communicated to you, only because you're resisting them because of fears fears for your safety, I guess? I don't know. Any attempt to communicate with you at all?
Yeah, there has been attempts to communicate numerous times.
And have you denied it? You've denied it, or you've accepted it and it's happened?
It's really hard for me to say. I have to deny it, and it's only because I don't want my life changed due to these entities or anything like that. You know, there's a reason why they're trying to get a hold of me. There's a reason why they try to connect with people. I can't stop my life to try to help somebody that has passed.
Well, maybe they're trying
or anything like that.
Or maybe they're trying to help you. So maybe you're denying them to communicate with you is not because they want you to help them, maybe pass on to the next realm, but maybe they want to help you maybe they want to help you with something that might be coming in your future. They foresee it ahead of time. So maybe you should accept that communication pattern because they're trying to help you. Is that a possibility? I'm sure it's a possibility. Have you ever thought about that possibility?
I've never thought about that possibility until you just brought it up. But, you know, it can be a possibility. And considering that I have seen dead relatives that are extremely close to me, I was extremely close to my grandfather. So, yeah, I can definitely see that. For me, it just terrifies me so much because of past experiences. I don't know. There's just something about me now that will not accept their communication anymore.
Wow. When's the last time this happened?
Such as what? Like my last encounter?
Yeah, the last time that you saw a spirit. Was it more recent or a long time ago? Or? Well, I think we just lost Jesse again.
You gotta be kidding.
No. Well, he is in Colorado in an area that's... Oh, he's calling back now. Here he is. Jesse, we got you back, or we may have the spirit of Jesse. I'm not sure which, but Jesse says...
I don't know what's going on here, but what was your question again? I'm so sorry.
It was about, I said that maybe you should accept the communication with them, but you're blocking it. Maybe they're trying to help you out instead of you helping them out. So you have not accepted that because you said you were fearful of that, right?
Yeah, I am. And it's just because of health reasons, you know. I don't personally want to be possessed
right.
at all.
Have they moved you at all? For instance, there was this one guy who does a show like I do, and his name's Dave Schrader. He was on a television broadcast of some type. Supposedly he was pushed by a ghost. And I made a joke about it, saying that he'd seemed to be eating and he probably dropped a Twinkie on the floor and he tripped over the Twinkie as a joke. I think. But because he's a guy that looks like he can't stay away from food, so I would imagine there's food on the floor that he's probably missed and it dropped out of his mouth and it landed on the floor. But no, all joking aside, he said he was pushed by a spirit. Have you ever been nudged or pushed or touched or felt an entity trying to physically touch your being at all?
Yes.
You have? Okay.
Yeah, I have. I won't comment on that though.
Why not?
Just because it's the same story that that really, really terrifies me. I mean, this thing was sitting on my lap.
Uh-huh.
I will say that. I will say, with the same experience, I've seen my cousin get possessed.
Wow.
I've seen her eyes roll back in the back of her head. I've seen her floating off of the ground in sitting Indian style for a good 2 inches off the ground. Speaking in Latin, she doesn't know a single word of Latin.
Wow.
So there's just things like that. You know, that's about the only thing that I'll touch base on that. But that was the only time an apparition or any kind of spirit has touched me or done anything as far as I know.
Now you said that you saw someone that was possessed. Her eyes went in the back of her head. She lifted off the ground by a couple inches. After that took place, after that happened, and she became unpossessed again, I'm assuming she became unpossessed at some point, right? She went back to normalcy, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Did she remember anything?
During that process, I remember all of it.
No, but does she remember? When she came out of being possessed, did she have any recollection of what took place at all?
Oh, no, not at all.
No?
She didn't. She had no idea what happened.
Wow.
In fact, like we had to move her from where we were to outside, and she had no recollection of even moving to outside.
Huh.
And that was after she had snapped out of it. So I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're actually pretty fearful about not getting too close to these entities, not accepting communication, because you're fearful that the same thing that happened to her could potentially happen to you, that you'd be possessed. And I guess you have no idea how long you'd be possessed for. It might be for the rest of your life, right?
Right. And, for a lot of possession cases, a lot of people don't live after an exorcism or things like that. They don't make it. And that's another thing that scares me.
Right. Wow. Because maybe some of these spirits do not want to acknowledge that they're dead. And maybe when they realize that they are dead, and they realize that there's a way to come back and live amongst us, maybe they want to do that. Maybe because they're fearful of what takes place after their being has the ability to communicate with us. Maybe they don't want to leave, and they just want to come back, and they will be willing to possess even a family member to come back.
David, maybe they never left. Maybe they're not aware that they're dead.
Well, that could be.
I believe that too.
Huh.
Yeah. There's been multiple, Art Bell episodes, even with EVPs that they've recorded, to where an apparent spirit was saying, "I'm completely dead," or the realization of death has happened.
Very shocked. Yes.
And that leads me to my next point. I mean, you really have to think, when we die and our spirit lives on, do we really go anywhere? I mean,
we don't know.
To think about that. Exactly. We have no idea. Even when evil demonic spirits are expelled from people during possession, they don't get erased. Those spirits are just expelled from that body. So, right, they go somewhere else. So, I mean, they're here.
Yes.
They're here. Yeah, they're definitely here. And we just don't know it.
Right. I did see a demon, and I wanted to tell that story. Do you mind, David, or do you want me to wait?
Well, we are running a little longer than I usually do, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know it.
Maybe we'll save that story for another broadcast.
We'll save it for another time. Okay.
Yeah, save it.
Let Jesse talk, and I'm going to say good night.
Okay, and I'll
be listening.
Okay, cool. So,
well, thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.
It was great to talk to you, Jesse. Keep you back to the wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Bye-bye,
hey,
guys.
keep that flashlight close. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, so Jess, I did have a question. Do you think that, you're fearful of possession, but do you ever think that maybe you can be possessed by a family member, maybe your grandfather, and the two of you can live together in the same possessed body? Is that a possibility? Do you ever think of that?
I mean, yes, but I haven't thought about it. No, I can see it being a possibility. Yes.
But you probably.
However, I don't see it coming to fruition, just because if a good spirit wanted to do that, why would they do that in the first place? I mean, that would just cause you harm, or whoever that they loved.
Right.
That's putting their physical body in jeopardy due to the possession.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to think about. Why would a loved one put another loved one in that kind of circumstance or that kind of situation,
Well, you never know the desperation of people. I mean, for instance, you see things, my wife watches all those stories on the ID channel. And you hear about
Right.
parents killing their children, or children killing their parents, husband killing their wife, wife killing her husband. So they're close relationships where they really don't care about that loved one. So there could be a loved one in your family that when they died, they had a desperation to come back. And the desperation is the way that they come back is to possess a weak member of their family who is not aware that they're going to be possessed. So it could happen that one family member just does that, picks off another one. It's the Italian thing to do. It's the Giovanni thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I can definitely see that being a possibility for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just really, I'm not closed-minded in that sense because I know that they're out there and I see them constantly and things like that. I'm just not accepting what they want to give. Does that make sense? I'm just, I don't want to accept that kind of connection.
It must be like hard to. You would think that the most vulnerable part of a 24-hour day would be the nighttime when you're sleeping. So is it hard for you to sleep at night because you're thinking that's an opportunity to get possessed? I would think that'd be a fearful time, right?
Yeah. I have a hard time sleeping.
Yeah.
There's multiple reasons why. Alongside my stories, my family members have experienced some ghostly encounters too, where they were pinned to their bed and they couldn't breathe, and
wow.
They saw this dark, really, really dark figure, super tall, that was in their room, and just things like that. Which, there's not really much you can do about that. I mean, if something wanted to, come in and visit you, it's definitely gonna. I guess I have a little bit more faith, and that goes back to the religion portion of what we were talking about again. If I do sense an evil, benevolent spirit in the room, I mean, that's just more clarification to me that there is something good out there, and whatever that opposite is has to help defend me, or has to, defend whatever's evil is in there, or, help stop it. So it's just, I guess it just all boils down to faith. And you got to look at these possession accounts too. Why is it that whenever somebody is apparently possessed, the only way to snap them out of it is through the word of God or religion?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Why is that? I mean, it's a really interesting concept.
Well, how did your cousin get snapped out of it? You mentioned that was it your cousin, or was it your cousin that was possessed, right?
Yeah, it was my cousin.
How did she snap out of it?
I honestly have no idea. I don't know. I don't know how she snapped out of it. It could have been, she was thinking about prayer. It could have been one of my other cousins seeing it, was thinking about it just because of what was happening. I do know when, stuff hits the fan like that, so to speak, that people automatically just tend to go to prayer. And 99% of the time it seems to work. So, even thinking about, prayer like that, I think helps a lot. And myself, I'm not one to be really, really religious. I consider myself more of an agnostic. Really, I don't know what's out there, but I do know that there's good, and I've seen evil. So there has to be,
Right. Wow. That's fascinating. Do you think that your spirit, when you die, will live on?
I think so. I can feel it. I don't know where or to what extent. I guess as we get older, I'm trying to find more and more about that.
Do you think,
but yeah, I definitely think the majority of us will, live on from death.
Yeah, I wonder now, after you're doing this broadcast and if you're thinking about all kinds of stuff, do you think that you'll be resistant to go into the spiritual realm, or do you think you'd actually come back and want to possess one of your relatives to get your life back here on planet Earth? Of course, you don't know, but once you're in that realm, you may think, I don't want to be in this emptiness, this void, or this whatever it is. I want to come back to what I'm used to. As bad as things are on planet Earth, you may think, it was pretty good there. I've got the unknown happening here. I've got the known when I was on planet Earth, living in where I'm living in Colorado here. I want to come back. To come back, I got to possess my cousin's body, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. And again, that can be at the time a spirit initially becomes an evil, benevolent being or something like that.
Right.
To me, possession is wrong. To me, possession is bad. Why would you want to, like I said, jeopardize somebody like that? Especially their physical form, knowing that you love them in life. And that's just kind of where I sit with that. I can't find any other reasoning,
I wonder if I wonder if a possession could be good though. For instance, there's a relative who's near death, almost dying. So that body is going to become vacant in a very relatively soon time. So the entity or the spirit that wants to come back to be on planet Earth again realizes that it's the moment of death of this individual. We hear about these near-death experiences where someone dies or is close to death and then suddenly they come back to life. They're brought back. I wonder if it could be a possession there.
I think so. I think so. As you mentioned earlier, even when we sleep, it leaves our body vulnerable to possession, just because of like astral projection, lucid dreaming, things like that. When your initial spirit leaves your body, it leaves the body open to things like that. So yeah, I fully agree with that. Yeah, I can definitely see that happen.
Yeah, wow, and it might be something that's good. Now, like I said before, I wonder if it's at all possible for two entities to possess one body. So you've got the individual who's near death; they're at their last 2 minutes of life. The entity that left the normalcy of planet Earth is now a spirit, realizes that their relative is at that 2 last minutes of life. They possess that body, bring that body back to health, and then both consciousnesses live within that body, but maybe they don't know it. Maybe maybe they're just living the life that they've lived all along together in one body without knowledge of the possession or being possessed. I would imagine that's at least possible. Kind of a freaky thing to think, but I guess it could be possible.
Well, I mean, I don't think that would be a freaky thing to think about, just because we do have people with multiple personality disorders.
Right.
And honestly, that could be it right there.
Yeah.
We, in a nutshell, we simply don't know.
Right. Wow. Well, I'll tell you, Jesse, let me end it for you tonight. But as we build this audience and get more people sharing the show and becoming part of the show, I'm going to keep in touch with you, and maybe I'll have you back on in like 5 or 6 months. So think about other topics or this same topic that we'll get into again with a new, fresh amount of people joining the show. And let me thank you for being on tonight, Jess, okay?
Oh, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, and before you go, though, let me give you my address, because if you ever tend to move to Arizona, I want to make sure you don't live in next door to me, okay?
All right.
I don't need to be possessed or have aliens in my backyard. So I'm going to give you my address. So if you're going to move here, let me know ahead of time so I can put the house up for sale, okay?
I got you. Yes, sir.
All right, Jesse, it was a blast talking to you. Thanks so much, and I'll let you go now on the Dave Darin Show. But you'll be on again. Maybe in 5 months we'll see you again, okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Dave.
Cool. Thanks so much, man. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, guys, so that's, I think, the end of the show tonight. Hopefully you guys liked some of the questions I asked, because not a whole lot of people called in, but I will thank Terry for calling in and asking some questions of my guests. You notice here I do write down, as we're talking, I try to write down things to keep in my mind so that when the guest is talking, I can then relate back to the piece of paper and think what I'm going to ask him next. But in the meantime, thanks for joining tonight. This was our reintroduction to the UFO Paranormal Show, which is going to take place once a week. Next week, we're going to start later, though. Don't forget, because I would think I was alienating the California audience by starting too early. So the show is going to start to take place at, I think, what did I say? 6 o'clock Pacific time. I forget what I don't even remember now. I think it's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern, which is 7 o'clock p.m. Arizona time, which is 6 o'clock. I got it. 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific. So starting next week and forever, hopefully, We're going to do the show on Thursday night, 6 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Arizona time, 9 o'clock Eastern time, starting next week. So next week, a little bit of a different time change. I'll give you a reminder of that. That's all we got for tonight. I appreciate you guys for listening in. A lot of people listen tonight. But instead of just being you guys listening, if we want to really make this show rock and roll, I try to share the show. I shared it to 28 sites tonight, all related to paranormal and UFO. If you guys could lend a hand and share the show so that more and more people join the show, not for my betterment or enjoyment, but for everyone's betterment and enjoyment of a specific topic. That's all we got for tonight. I will see you guys next Thursday or whenever I feel like talking about something. But that's it for now. See you guys later. Let me find my outro show, and that's all we got.
Do you know the Dave Darin Show? He used to be on terrestrial radio, but he got fired.
Here comes the boss fella now.
Dave Darin.